Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. Today is Friday, the 2nd of June 2023, and these are the stories that we will be discussing in detail during the course of the show. We will begin with the Akhand Bharat narrative, or the greater Indian narrative, as far as the current BJP government is concerned. Now, the current Indian government is trying different maneuvers, different machinations in order to highlight this initiative under the BJP. Our Foreign Office spokesperson in a briefing recently also talked about this Akhand Bharat, Greater India's, this whole ideology that is being propagated by the BJP, in which they have talked in, as an example, a mural that is depicting the so-called ancient India, including areas that now constitute parts of Pakistan and other countries, that now has been installed at the new Parliament building in New Delhi. Pakistan is not the only country that has objected to it. Nepal is also another country that has objected to this mural. But this is just one part of this whole Akhand Bharat, or Greater India ideology, that the BJP is propagating since quite some time. There are so many other elements that are equally questionable. We will be discussing that in detail in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, today concerns the US Senate, that on Thursday, that is yesterday, but of course with the 12 hours time it becomes more or less Friday, passed the bipartisan legislation backed by President Joe Biden that lifts the government's $31.4 trillion debt ceiling, averting what could have been the first ever default by the United States of America. It was already passed by the United Nations House of Representatives, but now it has also been passed by the Senate, and now of course the US has averted a huge crisis-like situation because of this default. We'll be discussing the different elements, why the US came to this and what the US will be doing. And then we'll be talking about Jordan's heir to the throne, who yesterday married into one of Saudi Arabia's prominent business families in a glitzy ceremony that was attended by international royals, head of state, and we also had a representative from Pakistan as well. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the Director General of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, who has confirmed that Iran has made progress on certain issues regarding the P5+1 deal. So, of course, good news there as well. Maybe we'll be seeing more good news coming on that front in the coming days, and we'll be informing you on that. That was our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns the Akhand Bharat, or a Greater India narrative of the BJP, that is now being propagated with a lot of questionable narratives. More in the following report.
India under Hindu nationalist BJP is dangerously flirting with expansionist designs which might imperil regional peace. Hindu nationalist ideologues have long relied on manufactured history to justify invasions. India's RSS, the Hindu nationalist organization with close links to the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, has put forward the idea of Akhand Bharat. The draconian policies enacted by Modi's government have increasingly reflected this desired political ideology. The Indian politicians are indulging in rhetoric against other countries merely to further their divisive and parochial political agenda. Installation of a mural at the new Parliament building in New Delhi depicts so-called ancient India, including areas that now constitute parts of Pakistan and other countries. The idea of Akhand Bharat also shapes the current Indian government's relationship with its neighbours. August 5 unilateral measures are inspired by this ideology, and New Delhi is using gerrymandering to politically nurture the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir's Muslim majority. Pakistan has expressed grave concern over the idea of Akhand Bharat, Greater India, which is being increasingly peddled by ruling Indian dispensation. The gratuitous assertion of Akhand Bharat is a manifestation of a revisionist and expansionist mindset that seeks to subjugate the identity and culture of not only India's neighbouring countries but also its own religious minorities.
Dr. Asma Khawaja, who is the Executive Director of the CISS in the Jammu and Kashmir region, joins us online. Dr. Saiba, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saiba, this mural is just one of the many examples of this so-called demented ideology of the BJP concerning the Akhand Bharat, or Greater India. Do you feel that slowly and steadily the BJP is getting into a zone from where there will be, no return politically or diplomatically or philosophically speaking?
Definitely, BJP and Modi since 2014 have converted India into a hardcore Hindu Rashtra, and all these dreams of Akhand Bharat, sadly, they are based on some fairy tales, and those fairy tales have become their identity of India or BJP right now. Unfortunately, this idea of Akhand Bharat actually is a electoral dividend for BJP and or paying very well to BJP, and BJP is able to secure the votes of Hindu radicals in order to create such Akhand Bharat. And if
But you
we,
know,
if
Dr. Sahiba,
and
this
if
said, you
at
say that
some point
they
of
are converting the radicals, but at the same time they have lost the elections in Karnataka, and you know that as well. Do you feel this is
that
also a
is, yeah.
diversionary tactic? You know, creating murals depicting parts of countries that are no longer part of India, and of course going on with this narrative that you are explaining as far as BJP's ideology and the RSS ideology. Is this also a diversionary tactic? Do you feel the BJP is losing politically in India because of this narrative?
Actually, we should not have high hopes with BJP losing elections in Karnataka. There were certain other reasons. First of all, governance and economics, which played its role in BJP's loss. But definitely, we all know that BJP's governance, BJP's electoral manifesto, all are based on propaganda, and all what is Modi is best in propagating false narratives and false shining points. So this mural in Indian Parliament definitely is an example, or is a way to again to give false dreams to Indian or Hindu people, that this is the ultimate aim, and or this parliament would be the ultimate destination of whole South Asia. And this is such a false, incorrect. If we see the history, anyone with the slightest knowledge of the history of subcontinent knows that how false that narrative, that discourse of Akhand Bharat is. And practically, this idea of BJP of Akhand Bharat has become a Akhand Bharat for the whole South Asia region, because it manifests currently Indian government does not respect the sovereignty and integrity of the neighboring states. And if for a slightest second we believe or we think that BJP, this idea has some logic, then we all know that cross throughout the history, the human migration is the basic cornerstone in developing today's civilization. It was the reason that what we are today, that was because of that. We all know Germany was, every country had different maps and territorial design, territorial identities, but they are not the same in today's contemporary world.
Exactly, and they
And
have, you
how
know,
can
updated them,
someone
and they are not, you
use
know,
this?
latching on to those centuries old or even decades old, you know, maps in which, you know, countries that are no longer, or areas of countries that are no longer part of their country are still being highlighted. This is only just the case in India, and this
Yeah,
ideology. Do you also feel that the way that it is contorting historical facts or geographical facts is also pointing, maybe directly or indirectly, at some kind of invasion in neighboring countries in the future, or maybe justification of such invasion if it does happen in the future, or if they want to do some kind of an operation in neighboring states? Do you feel they might justify it by the fact saying, oh, you know, this is part of Greater India or Akhand Bharat?
we all know that in South Asia, India is the only country which is expanding since day one. So definitely to cover up the expansionist designs of India, that Khand Bharat can be an idea to justify or legitimize those ideas. And but we all know that it was only during it was united. South Asia was united. Otherwise, throughout the like 3,000 years before Christ, if we start the history from that point, South Asia was divided into kingdoms, into tribes. It's a tribal society, and there was not a single time in the history when a Hindu ruler ruled whole South Asia at one point of time. The largest Hindu kingdom was of Prithviraj Chauhan, and which was only contained in Punjab, Kashmir, and this UP and Bihar. So it was not even the complete India. So definitely, someone needs to prick this bubble created by, and as you said yesterday, I was reading an article that in the name of revising the school curriculum of India, BJP government is deleting the various subjects or chapters which are related to democracy, equality, Mughal rule, development, peace. All those chapters have been deleted from the Indian school curriculum. So what was the aim? Aim is to create an information or knowledge bubble and then refill that bubble with those false discourse which suits or which are compatible with the electoral manifesto of BJP. And
I totally agree with you on that, and I think they are going to move their whole political agenda for the elections next year on the very basis of this greater Indian ideology or Akhand Bharat ideology. Now, you know, Pakistan has objected to the mural. Our Foreign Office spokesperson talked about it in detail. Nepal has objected to this mural. Can regional countries ignore this dangerous Indian delusion, or should I say, or allegation, or should I say narrative, philosophy, ideology? Till what time can other nations ignore such delusions from the Indian side?
Not for a single second. No regional. How can a regional country can ignore that? If a state manifests its designs or ambitions to undermine the sovereignty and integrity of those regional states. And as you said, Nepal has objected. When Nepalese Prime Minister once stated that Hindu god, Mr. Ram was a Nepali, did India digested that statement? They, on every level, India rejected that statement. So how can Nepal even accept that if a country says that Nepal should be part of this greater India idea? It is the time in international community, international law, UNO, no one supports that argument. Otherwise, Pakistan can also propagate those stupid ideas that, okay, we are the, claiming anyone's territory is not a difficult task. Iran can claim whole South Asia. Today, Turkey can claim whole South Asia because they ruled this region for 1,000 years. So if that claim is legitimate? No. So it is the time, and I am very pessimistic that if BJP realizes, because when we see the recent history, BJP always prioritized domestic electoral victory over any other sensible thing. And this nonsense, this is what is being sold, with what is being marketed by the BJP leaders, as RSS leaders, and how they can reverse all those things which they think would be the electoral dividend for them. So BJP definitely politically is in a problem. I would not use the term crisis, but definitely it is in a problem because the increased popularity of Congress is definitely they would be considering as threat, because Modi had idea that for the third time he would come with the larger vote bank, with the larger seats, but apparently according to different estimations, maybe it would not be the case. So all those complexities, Modi or BJP leaders think that they would be resolved through inaugurating that mural in New Indian Parliament building.
Oh, no, that is just one part of it. But you know, let's talk about this greater India, this Akhand Bharat, that as per the Hindutva ideology of the BJP says that it includes countries like Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Pakistan, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and that they estimate that they will become part of India. This RSS ideology, and on the other hand, we have also, the Amit Shah, who says that after 5th of August 2019, now he wants to make Chin also part of India as well, something that an area that is already contested. All of this combined, when you also see that India is, heading the G20 and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is this any kind of responsible attitude from a country that calls itself, pluralistic, democratic, and a huge, economy of the region, or the biggest economy of the region? What's your take on that? Don't you feel that they are endangering regional peace, and on the other hand, they are heading international organizations like the G20 and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization?
I suggest that all regional countries should write letters to all those organizations and UNO and all other international organizations registering their concerns, their insecurities regarding this manifestation of the idea of Akhand Bharat. This would be the right way to address it, and all those organizations where India is the president or heading or leading those organizations, it is the time to tell them that India being their president would cost those organizations their credibility and their status in international politics. So it is time to refrain from doing this because a country which has expansionist designs, not only like implicitly but explicitly manifesting them, deserve it, and definitely all countries should, I think, go to UNO and register their complaints there regarding this act of India, because because we need to,
and take India to task with this revisionist policy that it is going on with. Akhand Bharat is just one part of that revisionist policy that India is going on with since the BJP took power, and I don't know where all of this will go, and how far with this will this current government go, just for gaining more votes or gaining more ground politically in the coming months and years. And there's a lot of danger, on the regional side and on different sides as well, on the for the economy, for regional peace and stability, that all the countries, as you yourself have said, including those countries that are part of the global north, need to bring India to task and make it understand this is not the way to go. What's your take on that? Last question. This is the last question. I want a short answer, Dr. Saiba.
My take is that if India would continue questioning and challenging and threatening the sovereignty, integrity, identity of regional states, it would be soon India would become a Akhand Bharat for the region, because that is creating problems for the neighboring states. And it is Indian behavior that the only regional organization, SARC, is ineffective. So you rightly pointed out India, a revisionist state, which is trying to revise the international regional orders so that the balance of power can be tilted in India's favor. And that is how India wants to revise all those existing norms and regulation. And it is the duty of international community, international organizations, to see that how this revisionist state can be a threat for regional and international peace. And here I would like to mention that the radical extremist elements or different organization, terrorist organization, they also call themselves as revisionist entities because they believe that international order is not favoring them or accommodating them. That is why they want to revise it. And now today, the so-called a state with a large population is standing in the line of being a revisionist one. So it is the duty, it is the conscience of international community to
that is a duty. It is part of the conscious nature of all these organizations, that they need to make India understand that whatever it is doing is not only not for the good of the region, but also not for India itself. With all the, if India continues in the same way, there are going to be different movements that are going to gain momentum, and India will itself implode, as many other heads of international organizations have already warned India about this whole implosion that might take place if India continues with such policies. Thank you so very much, Dr. Asma Shakir Khawaja, Executive Director, CISS, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this whole misguided concept, should I say, of Greater India or Akhand Bharat that India is propagating under the Modi regime. Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns the United States of America, that has averted a huge crisis by passing bipartisan legislation backed by Joe Biden that lifts the government's $31.4 trillion US debt ceiling, averting what could have been a first ever default of the United States of America. More in the following report.
The US has narrowly averted a default on its debt, which raised risks of global economic meltdown. The United States Senate has voted to approve a bipartisan deal which would increase the country's debt ceiling, clearing the bill's last major hurdle before it reaches the desk of President Joe Biden. With Biden expected to sign the newly passed bill, the landmark decision is set to avert economic catastrophe, with only days remaining before the US was due to default on its debt on June 5th. Senators voted 63 to 36 in favor of the legislation, which was thrashed out in often late-night negotiations between teams representing the Democratic Biden and Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. U.S. President Joe Biden welcomed the bill's approval as a big win for U.S. economy and the American people. The hotly scrutinized 99-page debt ceiling deal has been controversial on both sides of the political divide since it was announced on May 27th. White House economists estimated that a protracted default could cost up to 8 million jobs and wipe half the value of the U.S. stock market. Biden-McCarthy debt ceiling agreement is positioned as a compromise with ripple effect across global financial sector.
Dr. Tauseef Javed, he is the research associate with the CSCR, joins us online. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. This whole crisis that has now been averted by the United States of America, what would have happened had the Senate and the House of Representatives not accepted this bipartisan law, and had they not passed this bipartisan law, and had the US gone into default? Could the US, or can the US, in your point of view, ever go into default?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. Well, my point of view is very if you have said this, if US could ever default, but it's not the new thing in the US political history. Before this bipartisan law has been passed, actually 78 times US has been through this, and they have compromised this deal, and they reached to this kind of compromised bipartisan deal. You have said that what could be the repercussion for the domestic and the international political economy or the economy. It could be worse. Like, by reaching to a bipartisan deal, we can say that yes, it is indeed very good for the international economy. Because of reaching this bipartisan compromise, US has, and the world economy actually has saved to reach to a scenario where everyone and the global economy can feel the catastrophic scenario. So I think it's very good.
Dr. Tauseef, when it comes to this bipartisan law that has now been passed, and of course President Joe Biden says he's going to make it law very soon, and he's also apparently addressing the nation later in the evening, or maybe earlier morning. It will be at around 7 p.m. their time, so it will be earlier in the morning, tomorrow morning. This said, how would you consider this law that has now been passed, this legislation that has been passed? Is it, in your point of view, a landmark deal under the current circumstances for the US?
Well, we can say that's a landmark deal. As you, if you have followed Kevin McCarthy, he said that this deal is a landmark in the American history because it has, like, it has provided them to, if you will see the 99-page long deal, it has given a consent.
All right, we are in of course, we're talking to Dr. Tauseef Javed. He's a research associate with the CSCR. There has been some kind of a technical issue due to which the conversation has been interrupted. As soon as we do get hold of him, we'll get back to him. As far as this legislation is concerned, the US Congress, as far as all the international media are saying, and also the US media, has averted a historic default and has approved this debt limit suspension. The Treasury Department has also warned that it would be unable to pay all of its bills on June the 5th if Congress failed to act by then. Biden was, of course, directly involved with the passing of this legislation and in all the negotiations that were held that led to this legislation being passed. Dr. Tauseef is back online. Dr. Tauseef, we were talking about this deal being, this legislation being a landmark deal for the US and also for the world, in particular for developing countries such as Pakistan as well. How important was this legislation and the passing of this legislation?
Actually, this legislation caps non-defense spending. So non-defense spending will remain relatively flat in the fiscal year 2024 and increase by 1% in the fiscal year 2025. After certain adjustment to the appropriations are made, according to the White House official, that so far we have this information. So by keeping in mind, we can say that as per according to the House GOP fact sheet, non-defense discretionary spending will roll back to the fiscal year 2022 levels, and top line federal spending line will be limited to 1% annual growth for the next 6 years. Because of this statement, Kevin McCarthy has said that this is the one of the great victory for the Republicans in the American history, that though it's a bipartisan deal, but yes, because it favors more or gives the concession more to the Republicans, because Republicans before that have asked that they want more adjustment of the work requirement for the in kind of a food stamps and the other US public.
All right, Dr. Tauseef, I'd like to understand, were there compromises made by the US Congress, by the US House of Representatives, Senate, in order to pass this bipartisan legislation? Do you feel there will be sectors that could be affected? Because there was a lot of argumentation when this legislation was being passed for the next, and of course this is going to be also this will continue to be discussed in the coming days as well. For example, housing, environmental protection, education, medical research, that the Republicans wanted to cut deeply. Do you feel these will be affected in the long run? Do you feel the defense budget of the United States could be affected in the long run as well?
Well, to be very honest, this question of effectiveness, we can't say at this point of time, because it's a bipartisan, it's a compromise. When it's a compromise, you can't say something very like certainly. So we have to see, but at this time, we can say that yes, United States has averted the threat of getting default. At the same time, the global economy has been saved. So for now, has been saved of facing such kind of catastrophe that was looming around economically. So, and if domestically, efficiency of this compromise would depend on the coming days. So we cannot say certainly, but yes.
Maybe time will tell on what kind of compromise has been made in order for this to pass. You know, a lot of business groups in the US have been talking about and urging Washington to act to increase the debt ceiling. Do you feel that could also happen? Is that an option that could be decided? Because there's a lot of opposition to the debt ceiling increase as well.
Well, there was like, and there's still criticism over the increase of the debt ceiling. But as per the practice or the history, what tells us about the American debt ceiling problem, they will definitely increase it. They don't have any other option. As I told you earlier in my argument, that it's not the new one that America has done. It was before like 78 times. Earlier, America has reached this kind of compromise. Sometimes they have revised, sometimes they have increased the limit. And for now, if you can remember the time when from Trump, and then before that there was a other president. They were in 2017, in 2018, in 2016. They were.
We had Obama before.
It was yes, Obama, President Obama. They were increasing the debt ceiling, and it's it gives a kind of a more protection, that a defined line, that you have a more increased boundary in which you can increase or spend U.S. federal expenses to manage the fiscal responsibility. So I think they would definitely increase it, despite the fact that there are criticism, but they don't have any other option, as we can, like the history.
So you feel that this is something that is going to happen in the near future or in the distant future, but this is something that is quite possible that could happen, the increase in the debt ceiling. Also,
yes, yes, definitely.
Okay.
It will.
Okay, now Joe Biden, the president of the US, as well as the congressional leaders, have all acknowledged that had a default been triggered in the US as a result of not passing this bipartisan legislation, it could have A, sent shockwaves through global financial markets. We've discussed that in the beginning. B, possibly trigger job losses and a recession in the US, and C, raising families' interest rates on everything from home mortgages to credit card debt. Now let's come to the latter two eventualities that could have happened. The people, the US citizens, a lot of them rely on their jobs, a lot of them rely on home mortgages, on credit cards. More or less everything that people buy in their houses, the cars, etc., are all either mortgaged or are based on credit card loans or payments. Don't you feel it could have shook the entire US financial system had this law not passed?
Yes, this is the eventuality that is possible. But as I told you, that what they do, they allow to increase the limit of the debt ceiling. When they allow, then everything goes otherwise. So there are possibilities that, as you have mentioned in your statistics, of the job losses of the people, or that a number of the Americans are using credit cards for buying cars and other stuff. But the eventuality could be otherwise, in a way that they are going to remove the debts, certainly not remove, increase the debt ceiling, and that will allow them, and it will help them to draw the boundary to a next level. Actually, for a shorter, if you will say that for a shorter time period, it helps them for a few years, 2 years, because this compromise that has been done is still 2025, like the next, after the next presidential elections. For a few years, the American economy or the fiscal responsibilities by the federal government is going to be in a safe hands. But if you will say that for a longer period, there's going to be we can't say that is a sustainable step ahead in American economy.
All right. Thank you so very much, Dr. Tauseef, to have joined us. That was Dr. Tauseef Javed, Research Associate with the CSCR, talking to us about this bipartisan law that has been now passed, this legislation that has been now passed by both the US House of Representatives and the Senate. And of course, the US President has said he is going to very quickly pass it as law, and he's also going to give a statement at 7 p.m. US time. So that means early tomorrow morning, as far as this bipartisan legislation is concerned. The US has averted the crisis at this moment, but we will of course be seeing how the US moves forward to as far as 2025 and beyond 2025 is concerned, because therein lies the essential question on whether the debt ceiling will be raised or not, whether other measures will be taken by the US or not. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first is of course the Jordan royal marriage that has taken place. We all love a wedding, you know, when it comes, when it highlights royalty. We like the stature that is associated with it. They were people from, you know, heads of states from, or the spouses of heads of states from different countries that were there to witness the ceremony and also to felicitate Jordan's heir to the throne, who has now married into one of Saudi Arabia's prominent business families. The ceremony was glitzy, the ceremony was very glamorous, and Britain's Princess of Wales, US First Lady Jill Biden, 140 guests were there to witness this beautiful ceremony. 28-year-old Crown Prince Hussein bin Abdullah II and his fiancée Rajwa Al Saif have tied the knot. He is of course the heir to the throne as per the directives of his father King Abdullah in 2009. Of course, let's talk a little bit about the groom. He is a 29-year-old. He is, of course, let's talk about more about the bride, because, of course, we always want to understand or know where she's from. She is a Saudi architect, graduate of Syracuse University, New York. She will now also be known by Her Royal Highness, by the Crown Princess of Jordan. When the Crown Prince takes the crown, her title will change to Queen Rajwa. The bride is related to Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince and Mohammed bin Salman through her mother, who is from the prominent Al Sudairi family. Let's see how all of this sees. But of course, as you can see the parallel window as well, beautiful ceremony, a young couple and royalty. So it becomes a favorite event to attend and to watch as well. I'm sure you'll be able to watch this event on one channel or the other, or on YouTube as well. Finally, let's come to the IAEA. We all know about the Iran nuclear deal, the P5+1 deal. Now the IAEA chief, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, has confirmed that Iran has made progress on certain issues. He was speaking to reporters in New York, and he said that we are making progress on several fronts. These remarks have come days before a quarterly meeting of the IAEA Board of Governors that is to be held in Vienna. This is an important deal. It has been stalled because of a lot of factors, mainly the US factor during Donald Trump's era. But now the EU is really pushing hard so that some kind of a finality comes to this deal, and Iran also wants this deal to happen. Let's hope some kind of negotiated process leads to a re-inkling of this deal between India and the P5+1. We will be updating you as and when that happens. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. It's the end of the week, so we'll see you inshallah on Monday with news stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.